DisruptEd is a platform that is meant to challenge the status quo of the education industry, the status quo of the education experience and the outcomes of it. My name is Dr. Adil Alzarooni. I'm a serial entrepreneur coming from multiple industries, and now we are challenging the education industry.
Thank you very much for joining me today. Your story and what you have, the way you have transformed a personal challenge into an institution like JAD Inclusion is a story to be told. A very inspiring story, and I think a lot of people will relate. And your experience and the way you've dealt with that challenge would truly, in my opinion, contribute a lot and help a lot of people, put them in the right framework on how to attend to certain educational challenges and specifically autism. I'd like to start with asking you the question, a bit of background, and then we'll skim into the story behind JAD and how did that evolve, and a lot of discussion on the future of education when it comes to attending to cases, specifically more towards the issue of autism. So I'll leave the floor to you and a bit of background, please.
First of all, thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure and amazing initiative. My name is Rana. I'm originally Syrian. I'm a mother of 3, and Jad is my middle son. So when Jad was born, he was neurotypical, what they call there. He had all the milestones on track. Until the age of 1.5 years, he started regressing. So he lost his speech, he lost his interaction, which didn't make it easy, because I always say, or I assume, maybe if he was born this way, it would have been easier for a mom to accept. But the fact that he developed normally and he regressed, you always have the guilt of, what did I do wrong? Like, God gifted you a healthy, beautiful boy. What was it wrong? That was, of course, when I found out about the autism. Autism, we're talking about 15 years ago. It was a taboo. I didn't even know what autism was. So I had to search, understand, look it up, and I found out what it meant, which was devastating. We don't have any learning delays or special needs in the family. He's the first. And even explaining it to, for example, my parents or other older family members was a bit hard, because they'd be like, but he was talking the other day. Like, yeah, but he's not anymore. I was like, how can that happen? So it was very interesting, not only dealing with the diagnosis, but dealing with the people around you. Add to that the guilt.
What did you notice, by the way?
So first of all, he stopped interacting, as I said. He stopped eye contact. He stopped calling us. So the typical, again, 1.5 years, what do they say? Like, mama, ball. It wasn't more than that, but he stopped it. And first of all, I thought it was in my head. Like, I would ask my husband, I was like, when was the last time Jad reached out? And everyone would be like, just the other day. I'm like, yeah, when was the other day? And I think this is where, for a long period of time, people thought that I had the issue and not him. It was like, Rana, are you going through depression? Or are you going, like, what's going on?
Okay.
So they actually thought it was me, because like, no, Jad talks. I'm like, I know he talks, but when was the last time he spoke? Or when was the last time he played with you? When was the last time? So as I said, I think the fact, and it's not really common, just to clarify. So autism, it's only around like 25% that kids regress.
Okay.
Usually they're born with it, which means by the milestones, they don't meet them. So it's easier to track for a pediatrician or a parent, being like, he should be crawling by this age, he should be walking by this age, he should be talking. And they don't do it, so it's easier to track. In my case, he met them all, and then he regressed. And as I said, it's only 25% that it might happen to.
Okay.
So it was that, until a mother should always believe in her intuition. And I knew something was wrong. So I even had to play the game. I'm like, okay, let's consider that there's something wrong with me and not Jad. To prove me I'm wrong, let's take him to a doctor and diagnose him.
Okay.
Because again, you have I'm Arab, right? And this part of the world, yes, we're very open-minded and very westernized, but we still have the mentality of, we don't talk about these things, we don't admit these things. So the fact of like, I played it in a way, let me be the one who's going crazy and not something wrong with my son. So let's diagnose him. And this is how we ended up diagnosing him. And unfortunately, my fears were right. As I said, I didn't know autism, but my fears were right about that. Yes, there was something wrong going on.
May I ask you about Rana before all of that? What was Rana?
So Rana, before all of that, was a fashion designer.
Okay, interesting.
I hated school.
Okay.
I was bad at school. And yeah, so the irony of me ending where I am now,
Is a shift.
it's really funny because I almost laugh at it. So a lot of my students, even when they come, they're like, "We don't want to be here," and I'm like, "I hear you."
Yeah.
So that was me before. I was a housewife. I've never worked in my life.
Okay.
As I said, I'm a fashion designer. I didn't know the know-how.
Okay.
And I think Jad was one of the best things that happened in my life because he taught me, he guided me, he held my hand. He was a blessing in disguise. When things happen to you, I always tend to say, look at the positive and not the negative. I did go through severe depression when I found out about Jad. And then I created because as I said, everyone around me didn't know what I was going through. I mean, we have amazing support, family support, relatives. I'm like, oh, we hear you. No one heard me. We don't have a special need in the family. No one heard me. So I did podcasts. Oh, actually, not podcasts, sorry.
Blogs?
A blog, yeah. It shows my age. Because now they don't exist, I think.
This is how I got it.
I think they don't exist anymore now. So I did a blog, and it was purely just me venting out. It was like almost a diary. So I would just go and enter my fears, enter my concerns, enter all that. And I was shocked by the amount of followers. I was truly shocked. But also the sad part, all were anonymous. No one wanted to say who they are, which is understandable. I guess, again, we go back to the region. It helped me a lot because I realized I wasn't the only one. Like whatever fears I was bringing, everyone was following through. Whatever concerns, people were, tapping in. So that was what got me out of that depression.
If I may ask, you're now going through this diagnostics.
Yes.
You took Jad into the first diagnostics ever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how did that go? And how did the whole process of diagnostics go with you? I see a lot of people struggling in even finding the proper diagnostics. Yeah. So may I take a couple of minutes on your experience with diagnostics?
Yeah.
How did that go? Because I think a lot of people will also relate and would love to get some guidance on that.
So that's an amazing question because it's so true. A lot of kids are wrongly diagnosed and other are overdiagnosed. So now it's the new trend to diagnose kids or put labels on them. In my opinion, I don't believe in labels. I mean, if there's a problem, fix it. I don't care if the child is dyslexic, apraxic, autistic, whatever it is. Let's target the issues itself. I mean, in other cases, of course, you need the label because it helps how to deal with it. Because he wasn't interacting, the first thing you suspect is hearing. So I'm like, what if he's not hearing us? And this is why he's not answering. So I went to an ENT, and funny enough, the ENT didn't pick it up. He was like, there's nothing wrong, everything's fine, all that. I'd advise you to go to a speech therapist to see if you can help. And the speech therapist was, when he was assessing him, he's like, did you ever hear of something called autism? I'm like, I hear of it, I don't know what it is. And he was the one that said, why don't you look more into it? And God bless Google. When I Googled it, I was like, oh my God. So it was a lot of things that we don't pick on. For example, he didn't point. So for me, pointing, I didn't know that autistic kids or kids on the spectrum don't point. He flapped. So a lot of things, not only the not interacting, I realized a lot of things I start seeing. And this is where, again, I'm talking about 15 years ago, there wasn't much in the UAE related to autism. So I had to go to the US and diagnose him there. There are multiple fantastic centers now. So there's a huge progress and improvement. But back then I couldn't. And the sad part is that no matter how prepared you are, you still get that slap on the face.
You're always hopeful.
You're always hopeful.
This whole thing will go away.
Yeah, and I'm like, maybe I knew there was no cure. Like going there, I knew there was no cure. But you'd be like, so when is he going to go back to whatever, the closest thing? When is he going to talk? And I think my slap on the face when she gave me the diagnosis that Jad will stay, because he had something called selective mutism, which he can sing an entire song of Katy Perry, but then ask him what his name is, he wouldn't answer. So she's like, Jad will never talk. And I think that was the big slap. It wasn't the diagnosis, because I was almost ready for it. I didn't know that was an option. And yeah, it wasn't easy.
Now that you have been informed of the diagnostics, is it really usually, you are the expert in this, is it really black and white? Are those labels accurate labels, or do they use them generically? How does it really work?
Yes and no. Yes
Okay.
and no. In some cases, yes, it's black and white. In other cases, and this is why I always say early intervention is key.
Okay.
Because all this is new, because even medicine doesn't understand what it is, they still don't know what causes autism or what it's around. It is a typical neurological disorder, but they don't know the cause to fix it. So in some cases, we're a lot of times shocked by the progress that child does.
Oh.
If you ask me, I think we're all slightly autistic. So it's just the level of the
Certain
severity.
Trait. Yeah, severity. Okay.
Yeah. So, but we do have, and this is why I encourage parents that the minute you suspect, don't deal with your emotions, don't deal with your fears, take actions, because out of experience, early intervention is very key. So there are some kids that almost go back to, they just might do some odd stuff, and then others no. So I would say yes and no. And there are a lot of kids that are falsely diagnosed as well, and especially now after COVID times with, not going out in the developing years, exposed to multiple languages, being on the devices, electronics. So it's a gray answer. There's no straight answer.
So now you just came back from the US, or you're still in the US?
No, I came back. Yeah.
So you got the diagnostics. I will not ask about, how did the family deal with it at that point. I'll come back to that question. Mm-hmm. But then you, Rana, mm-hmm. What did that do to your frame, your mental frame, and how did you deal with it initially?
I was a nervous wreck. I was, as I said, super depressed, and I was purely blaming it on myself. So as I say, I come from a traditional family. The wife's job is the man is the provider. The wife's job is to have the kids, take care of them, and create a home.
Yes.
And I'm like, I even failed in that. So that's the heaviness on me. I only had to raise these two boys, and I failed them.
Okay.
So it was heavy, and as I said, it's because he regressed. So it wasn't.
And was that the question, the always revolving question? What wrong did I do?
Yes.
Did you always?
Always.
Is there any truth to any of that?
None.
Yeah.
None. And I want to specify to all parents, because what I went through and the comments that I heard, and they are born with it. And I want to clarify that. So
it's predominantly genetical.
It's either genetic or, as I said, they don't know what it is. So it's either genetic or environmental that triggers the genetic. So a lot of people would say, but why are there so many cases now and not back then?
Yeah.
It is genetic. As I said, we don't have it in the family. In a lot of cases, it needs to be triggered from the outside.
Okay.
And unfortunately, with the kind of life we're living now, with all the,
there are a lot of triggers.
A lot of triggers.
Okay.
Yeah. So whatever triggers it, we don't know what triggers it yet, but it's definitely not anyone's fault. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. It's not. Yeah.
And this whole thing of, you hear occasionally people saying, don't give them the iPads for so long. It will. Is there any truth to that?
I heard the iPad. I heard vaccine. I heard spending too much time with a nanny. I was accused by a lot of things. Okay. If it was the iPads, all the generation would be autistic.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not the iPad.
Genetics.
It doesn't really help sometimes, and sometimes it does help as communication tools. So it's case by case when it comes to our kids, but no, it's definitely not the cause. It might be a trigger in some cases, but definitely not the cause.
Did you feel alone?
Yes, big time.
Did that cause you to distance away from family and friends? And
absolutely, I wasn't seeing anyone anymore. That's it. It was black.
And then I think you went through, of course, a tornado of feelings and emotions. I can't even start guessing the heaviness of all of that on you. But then I would think that you wanted to start and caring for Jad and try to help as much as possible. Was that really driven by you or by the doctors coming and diagnosing and saying, you need to start now with early intervention? How did that happen?
So
How did you put yourself, filter away a lot of that negativity and like focus?
So the early intervention happened immediately. I don't know if it was because of the guilt, maybe. I don't know if it was because of all the doctors, professionals being like, it's essential, you caught it early, let's start the intervention. I don't know if it was because maybe hopeful that the doctor was wrong and that if we start early, it will fix early. So it's not only I got depressed, but I had a friend, she'd call me, she's like, how's Autismlandia? I'm like, huh? She's like, you live like in autism land, like you've dedicated yourself. So that was a good thing. That was a good thing that in a way it happened that way because yes, first thing, the minute we came to Dubai, it was early behavior plans, early OT, early speech therapy. So he had like a whole course of, I felt sorry for the boy. I mean, his older brother, 2 years older, would come back from school, play, and Jad would be like therapy, which helped tremendously.
How did that reshape your relationship with Jad at that time? Moving from being just a normal kid that you dealt with, how did that feel?
I'm not proud of it, but yes.
It became something. I think it would be very hard to feel otherwise. It's like now it's a mission now.
It's not fair. I'm going to be honest with you. It's not fair on him and his sibling.
Okay.
Because it's like, you have a bad grade, it's fine. Look at him, he's not talking.
Okay.
You're not managing, it's fine. And I have to admit it, the first couple of years, I was a victim myself of that because my main focus was all Jad. And I almost sometimes count my blessings that I'm so grateful that they're both young.
Okay.
That I don't think he really was aware until I picked up my game. But it's not fair for them. Like when I say when autism hits, it hits the family and it doesn't hit, or any diagnosis, special needs, it hits, it doesn't only hit the child. So for me, my relationship definitely changed because it was like a guilt towards him, like I need to make it up to you. It was a project. It was a lot of expectations maybe for a 3-4-year-old boy. So it wasn't fair.
Yeah, I would think that the whole pressure on you, and now you are like on a mission with a project and probably some timelines to achieve things, and then how would that put became a pressure on Jad himself and for a young kid, not knowing what probably he's going through and why is that all happening.
I wasn't enjoying him anymore. And that's the sad part. So they tell you there's a windows of opportunity before the age of 5.
Okay.
So for me, and the more you can do by then, the better progress and improvement you find. So for me, it was almost having like a calendar, when you're like in jail and crossing the days. I'm like, we have 1 day less. So it was just, I was just like a bulldozer on a mission. Let's make it happen, which wasn't really the best, I guess. It was what's needed to be done, but maybe not the best relationship as a ideal mother and son.
So now you are trying to up your game. You went through the initial shock, and now you have a mission with Jad, and you are trying to early intervene now. And I would guess that you have tried few centers and like you wanted to send the Jad to school. How did that work out at that time?
So yes, he was doing therapy, and I count my blessings. As I said, he improved tremendously. He was still nonverbal. He was still very much autistic, but he did improve tremendously. And when I wanted to send him to school, he wasn't being accepted. I tried. I even reached Ajman and Sharjah. That's how far I reached with schooling. And again, there weren't as many schools back then. So he was rejected from 22 schools. The reason is, and the problem, what the problem is that when you have a child with special need, and I told you already feel guilty or they already make you feel less. So when they tell you we're sorry, cannot accommodate your child, you immediately take it. You're like, oh no, I understand, whatever. And this is why I advise parents, no. Fight for your kid's rights, fight for why wasn't he being accepted? Why did this happen? So I never questioned. They would make you feel that you're wrong or he's wrong and not them. So they're not doing anything wrong. So it's like, oh, sorry, your child has a diagnosis. We don't accept diagnosis. Oh, I completely understand. Why don't you accept diagnosis? I mean, education is right for everyone, right? Like, where it's these things that I learned throughout the years.
I'd like to shed a lot of light on that.
Okay.
Because you've seen it then, and you probably see it now, and you have you did put your own touch now into the market. And at the time, and still is, many schools will claim that they are non-selective.
True.
Would you shed some light on those?
Oh my God, this is like this is a podcast by itself.
Okay, good.
Because you know why? It sickens me. And I'm being very honest. And I think I'm the ugly truth. A lot of schools till now, again, I'm not comparing to 15 years ago because the inclusion.
I actually want you to compare to 15 years.
If you ask me, maybe 15 years ago, I'm a bit more respectful to certain schools. Okay. Because at least they tell you, we don't have the resources, we don't have the staff, we don't have the teachers, we cannot accommodate. Okay. Now, a lot of kids are being accepted for the wrong reasons. It's either KHDA rating or it's a money-making machine. Our kids cost a lot of money. So a lot of schools that are struggling or are, for whatever reason, they take the kids when they can't help them. Yep. They cannot support them. They charge ridiculous fees for shadow teachers. And, expensive gifts come in expensive packages. Special gifts come in expensive packages. Our kids are very special. So a lot of kids, and this sickens me. Having said that, I'm not saying all schools. Some schools are doing it the right way, right reasons, right approach, which usually have ridiculous amount of waiting list, and that's the problem. And then others, in my case, and I'm in the field, so many times I tell parents, I'd rather your son not going to school versus going to that school.
Okay.
So it's not, and this is something else I would love to highlight. A son or a daughter going to a mainstream, it should be to benefit them and not for the parents' ego. Because we face it a lot. We face it a lot culturally that my son's not going to go to special needs center. He belongs to a mainstream. Sometimes it backfires because mainstream is not only about education. You have the social aspect. You have the peer pressure. You have the bullying. You have different stuff. So if you worked so hard on your child with early intervention and for your own ego, don't break all the hard work.
Yeah.
But again, it's case by case, it's child by child. It depends on the recommendation of where he's going and how he's dealing with the situation.
So now you've been rejected from 22 schools.
Yeah.
What did that do?
So going back to the ego, my son's going to school. It wasn't even an option. I did try, having said that, I did try sending him special needs center because he was sitting home. He's seeing his brother going to school. He needed, I wanted to send him to school. Because I did so much on Jad, he improved so much. So when he went to a special needs center, he started regressing.
Okay.
Because he was with more severe kids. Oh. He never had physical disability. He started limping. It is a fantastic center. It still exists. I refer a lot of people to it. It's great. But as I'm saying, for mainstream schools, not everyone belongs to a special needs center. And I think this is the mistake that everyone does. If your child is special needs, they put them all under one umbrella. It's not fair. And this is what happened. So I put him there not even half a term, and I saw the regression. I'm like, this is not happening. I took him out. I continued my search, and I found a school that actually was shut down a year and a half after, Jad leaving it, a year. But I'm just telling you of how low I was willing to put the bar down just to have, I would have him go to the bathroom. He'd go with his own shadow teacher, which I hired and used to live with us. And I'd tell her, use the bathroom. That's what kind of school I send my son to. Even hygienely, for it to be shut down says enough. But again, for my own ego, he needed to be in a school, belonging or not. I'm a tough cookie. I'm a fighter. I did it. And one day I was picking him up from school. I was like, Jad, let's go. And he just froze. So at the beginning when he joined, it was cute because kids are innocent. And they just thought he was the kid that didn't speak English. So it was an English school. So they would all friend him and invite him to birthday parties, play dates and all that. And they're like, oh, he's the foreigner kid that doesn't speak English. But then obviously a year or so into it, kids are smart. I think they picked on, that's not only about him not speaking English. And when I was picking him from school, I was like, Jad, let's go. And he wasn't moving. And I look and I see these supposedly friends of his that he used to go to their house, all going in one car. It was the weekend, and he wasn't with them. He just froze, and it just broke my heart. I'm like, wow. I'm like, I fought the system. I fought schools. I educated myself. I took him overseas. I did medical. I did everything under the sun for my son. And then an 8-year-old defeated me because, you can't force an 8-year-old to befriend your child. And I think, that's a breaking point. That was a breaking point for me. It was heartbreaking. And I think this is where I realized that, am I doing all these things for me? Or am I doing them for Jad? And I realized I was doing them for me. I was putting too much pressure on my baby.
You're trying to solve a problem that is beyond your own.
I'm trying to solve a problem with a problem.
Okay.
I'm trying to patch things with the wrong Scotch tape. You cannot glue water. So let the water flow, let it go to where it belongs, rather than. And I think that was the moment where I realized, okay, back off, Rana. Let's evaluate. Let's think. What's going on here?
So that happened. What did that change? And then what did you do after?
So that happened, and at the same time, as I was mentioning, because when I was depressed, I started a blog and I was blogging. We all shared the same fears. The same concern, all that. And when I started the blog, I was still very depressed. We're sharing all that until one day, one dad. So we're like, oh, where did you diagnose? Where did you assess? I'm like, I went to the US. The other one's like, I went to France. We do healthcare city therapy. And then one dad jumps and be like, I'm sorry, to burst your bubbles, but at least you guys are all depressed, sad, all that, we share our pain, but you're being able to afford all this. What should I say that I'm a man and not being able to provide these things for my son? And how I was telling you at the moment, there's certain moments in my life that there were awakening calls. The kid that didn't invite my son to a play date, this gentleman sending on the podcast, on the blog. And for me, I was like, it was literally a lighting bulb. And I was like, wow. I felt so belittled. Because I was like, he's right. When you sign up to being a parent, you sign up to being a parent. You don't go, I want blonde, blue eyes, short, tall. You're going to love your child no matter what. You're going to support your child no matter what. I need to count my blessings rather than seeing the bad things or unexpected things, let's just say, by having a diagnosed child. And that was my first snap out of it. So I created something called Autism in Dubai under the Red Crescent. And I started raising money to support families that couldn't afford therapy. And it was a beautiful triangle because no one knew who I was. It was, we go to the centers, the therapy centers here. What families do you have that didn't settle the bill, that are not diagnosed because they didn't have the financial ability, that they need extra therapy hours, but they're not doing it. So they give me a list of names. I got sponsors, here are the list of names. And so we just connected them. So it was working beautifully until fast forward 2 years after. And funny enough, everything happens for a reason. And, God's plan is always set there. Because 2 years after, I get another message on Autism in Dubai. And it was cute because Jad used to do baseball for special needs. And sometimes I hear the parents struggling and be like, oh, but there's this blog called Autism in Dubai. And if you approach them, they fund you. And by then I'd be like not zero, -0, putting my own pocket. I'd be like, don't approach them. Don't approach, because they didn't know who I was, right? I was like, please don't approach them. So we get a message on Autism in Dubai being like, thank you very much. You've been sponsoring my child for 2 years now. And he graduated from behavior therapy. He's doing great, but he's not being accepted in schools. Can someone advise? another lighting bulb for me. I was like, wait. So it's not only JAD not being accepted, and as I said, so when schools reject you, they make you feel like it's your child. They're perfect, they're doing great, but it's your child. And for me, I was like, what did I just hear? So I sent to all our previous families that I sponsored, being like, how many of you are in mainstream? And I think they were like, by then, they were like 33, 34 kids, something like that. I think by then there were only 2. The others, some made it and then got kicked out. Others didn't even make it. So I'm like, what are we doing then? Like, why am I going so out of my way to raise money, which is not easy, thinking I was saving the world, helping others, and if it's going to be like JAD, they're going to end up in the special needs center, which technically, if they're going to go back to special needs, why bother and do all this intervention if they're going to go back? So this is where I was like, you know what? Change of plans. I contacted all my sponsors. I contacted everyone. I was like, instead of sponsoring individuals, we're going to create a safe haven for our kids that are not going to be mocked, that they're not going to be played around, they're not going to be kicked out, and parents are going to be treated with dignity. So it did take around 4 years, but I went to the US, I educated myself, East Coast to West Coast, I went around handpicking best curriculum, programs, approaches, and 4 years after, we opened our first, the doors for our first 11 students, which was back then modern alternative education.
Wow. And that wasn't here in Dubai.
That was here. It's still the same location in Jumeirah, Safa 1. Yes.
I would love to hear a bit on what were the challenges that you faced opening something like that, like finding the property, getting the funding, getting the licenses, and how did that work out?
What were not the challenges?
Okay, how did you
It was very interesting. I'm telling you, it's a small boutique school in Jumeirah that took 4 years to open.
Okay.
So that says enough, because I don't think, and this is almost 10 years ago, no one was understanding the concept.
Okay.
So like, are you a special needs school? No, I'm not a special needs school. Are you a mainstream school? No, we're not. Because I go to HDA and they're like, you cannot be under us because I was like, I don't want to be under you because our kids cannot follow certain curriculums. And then you go to CDA and they're like, but you have a curriculum. So it was so confusing for everyone. Same thing, sponsors, we needed a lot of, specific curriculums, equipment, staffing. Villa location, we are split units. In Dubai, there's hardly any split units, devices. It's all becoming so modern. But because where I did my training in US, I asked them to handpick. I chose 3 villas and to handpick which one is more soothing or comfortable or for our kids. And they chose this one, which was a slumdog. I was like, really? But they're like, we look at different things. We look at the height of the ceiling. We look at the height of the windows. We look at the energy. So as I said, because it was for personal reason, I was doing it, and I was really picky, which took a lot of time and effort.
And you ultimately got licensed by CDA? What does
Yes.
CDA did it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now that you had opened, then how was the influx? So you had 11 students. Was that what you could handle, or was that what you...
So JAD's now it's called JAD's Inclusion. Back then, MAE, Modern Alternative Education. The whole vision since day one till now-ish, was not to take more than 40 kids. So a lot of people be like, oh, so how many students do you have now? The highest we reach is 33.
Oh.
And 33 was a red flag for me. Because our goal or the philosophy of JAD's Inclusion is not to keep the kid with us. They're not accepted in mainstream. They shouldn't stay home. Bring them on. 1, 2, 3. Like, why aren't they accepted? 1, 2, 3. Great. We will work on 1, 2, 3. Is it behavior? Is it academic? Is it attention? We will work and send the kid back. Having said that.
Back to where?
Exactly. And that's the great question. Back to mainstream. The whole vision was to mainstream school. So we identify ourselves or describe ourselves as the gray area between special needs centers and mainstream. So when the child comes to us, we reject... double isn't small number. More than that from the kids that we accept. And reject not because we function as a nonprofit. So not because we believe everyone needs to have a place, but they need to belong to this place. So when I say we reject, it's not rejecting as much as we relocate or we
Reroute.
Exactly. So a lot of people come to us. If we cannot help, we tell them special needs centers is the right place for your child. Or so many cases be like, it's a shame for your child to be here. We have good connections with schools. Let's try and push from now. And we will follow with you. And we will continue. And we'll send staffing with you there. So the vision is not to keep kids at Jazz Inclusion. Maximum capacity is 40. Highest we reached to was 33, which was a red flag for me. I actually had to be like, why do we have 33? So the vision, it was that child comes to us, we assess them, we put the plan, we put the behavior, we put the academic, all that, we work on it. It might take 1 term, 2, a year, 2, it depends on the child, and then we push to mainstream. That was the ultimate goal. I joke about it and say, unfortunately, it seems like we were doing such a good job that a lot of parents be like, we don't want to go back.
So they don't want to go back to mainstream.
Yes.
They want to keep it the
Yes.
Okay.
And funny enough, and I always share the story, that specific parent that started the trend was a parent, and I remember it was around end of year, it was Christmas time, and he came because his daughter was kicked out from school, and they referred him to us. He's like, fix her, and he used this term, fix her. Like, wow. I was like, okay. He's like, 1 semester, I'm still paying the term in the other school. Legally, they cannot kick her. So I'm still paying there and I'm paying here 1 term, and then she's going back. And that was, I think, around 4 or 5 years ago. And the interesting part is that we didn't invoice him for the next term, right? And I suddenly see a bank transfer from him, which was very interesting. I think so I called him and I was like, do you mind, like, what's this? He's like, I just don't want her to leave here. I'm like, where's the fixer? Of course, he shared then that she tried to hurt herself. She was on every existing, she was Down syndrome.
Okay.
She was on every existing depression medication. She was constantly, I'm ugly, I'm stupid, I don't belong, which obviously we were seeing on a daily basis, but he never shared the medication part. He never shared the hurting herself. And again, I go back to, please, parents, do things for your kids and not for you. These things need to be shared because they need to seek the right help. And he's like, since she joined here, I don't remember the last time my daughter did her birthday because she had no friends. So she actually did a pool party. She invited her friends' mates. I don't remember the last time she had play dates. I don't remember the last time so she was functioning as grade 3. In mainstream, she was grade 7. Of course she's going to think she's stupid. Of course she's going to think, when she came to us, we put her on grade 3. She's been now back in mainstream for 2 years. She stayed with us around, actually it was longer because she stayed with us around 3 years, and she's been, so that was like 5 years ago. We're still very much in touch. She actually won medals in the Special Needs Olympics. She's happier. What I always say as an example, we don't isolate our kids, we incubate them. So just like a newborn, toughen them up, send them back to the community. So that's what we do. The backfire here is that he started a trend, and a lot of parents are like, we don't want to leave here.
Okay, got it.
So I'm like, that's not how we work. So this is where now I guess we're looking into, because we do have, so we affiliated with a curriculum in the UK called ASDAN, which is vocational program. So now we have like good 10 students, which are answering your question, push them back to where? We have 10 students that we want to push back to the community, we call it. And then the others we want to push back to school. Hopefully soon we're looking into splitting these 2 divisions because it's not, for obvious reasons, in a small villa we cannot keep 16, 18-year-old with an 8-year-old. So we need to split them. But it's very promising. And then UAE, as I said, developed tremendously. So now, like, our older kids are doing internships at Rag Bank, at Club Apparel, at coffee shops. We're already in negotiations of having the first kid finding a job. So it's exciting because it's work in progress. I think we're one of the people that are paving the way for the inclusion. So it's fun.
Good, fantastic. You said something about accepting certain students and not accepting. Mm-hmm. What is the metric? I mean, knowing that your objective is that you want to, incubate them for a little and send them back to school as much as possible. So what's the metric? What do you look at generally? And would you consider as to be, this is what I'm able to support versus I'm unable to support?
It's because, again, And this is why, like, even me using the right terminology about child's inclusion, because we are a special needs center, but we're not a special needs center. So we don't take severe cases.
No.
We take cases that interact, engage, or like if the child does as simple as 1 + 1, we accept. We don't have high expectations. If the child is knowing the alphabets, we accept. So it's not, we don't ask what mainstream school ask for, but we don't want to waste, as I said, time is very essential. We don't want to waste parents' time and money.
Got it.
If we don't think the child can progress or we can benefit him, we have kids that we have to wear gears because they're aggressive, they bite. We accept them because developmentally, he still has or she still has abilities. So it's not about the behavior or the academic or all that. We don't look into these things. It's just we look into if the child is still being able to progress or had plateaued or doesn't have the potentials.
I wanted to pick your brain on what technology can do for this segment of society. AI, all of these, the internet. You probably have interacted with a bit of these technologies. Do you see an obvious use cases for these where it will help them? Would you expand on that a bit?
Absolutely. I mean, and this is why when people say, did iPads or electronic cause autism? I look at it from a different point of view. The access of everything is bad. So if it's being used too much, of course, it's not only about autism. It's going to cause other stuff. But the way I look at it is the other way around. Like, how much is the iPad or the devices helping our kids? Because we use them tremendously on, for example, communicating tools. So a lot of our kids have, especially the ones that are nonverbal, they use it actually. They use their PECS program to ask their needs, ask that, and it helps with the frustration, helps with the communication, all this. Us as professionals as well, the tracking system and all that is helping tremendously. AI now with helping with all the gadgets now and all the glasses and the games and even the sensory stimulating games or rooms depending on the diagnosis, because if someone has epilepsy, it might trigger them. So again, I'm not generalizing here. I'm just not specifying, generalizing. Depends on the case, but they can stimulate a lot of senses. A lot of things that we need to teach our kids, but for safety reasons, we might not be able to. We start with video games, with AI, with virtual reality, and then gradually take them to the real world. So it's a very important tool for our kids.
Now, I understand that almost in the UAE, every 20 minutes a kid is diagnosed with autism. And 1 out of 110 kids is actually diagnosed with autism.
And these are the reported cases.
Yeah, those are the reported cases.
Yeah.
So, I mean, realizing this, that the numbers are not small. From an infrastructure point of view, I mean, I'll put the issue of society and address it a bit later. But from an infrastructure point of view, what are the good things that are happening to ready ourselves for such, and what are the things that we should spend more effort in as a country, as society, when it comes to the whole infrastructure of taking care of such cases?
Yeah. So a lot is being done. A lot, and I have to admit it. Is that from like diagnostics to attending to them education-wise, infrastructure? So, what are we looking at? So first thing, when I'm talking about the early intervention, I live in Barsha. I had to drive to Healthcare City to do 1 hour therapy for my child. Now, only in Barsha, there are like 3-4 centers. So the opening new centers, opening new intervention, being the diagnostic centers, now you don't have to travel abroad to do it. You can do it here.
Is there good quality diagnostics now in the UAE?
Yes and no. Unfortunately, we go back to the long waiting list, but at least it's an option, which wasn't available back then.
So a lot of work needs to happen there also. So.
Definitely.
Are mainstream hospitals ready for such diagnostics, or are they mainly specialized centers?
Not yet.
It's predominantly private, I would assume.
Predominantly private, and still the private is not yet.
It's not yet there.
No.
Okay, so a lot of work has to happen.
Yeah, and we're talking about basic stuff. We're not talking even hospitals. We're talking about as simple as dentist, eye doctor, like things that a child needs maybe multiple times a year. Unfortunately, a lot of our kids still have to be fully sedated to do a small procedure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was mainly referring to diagnostics, but now we are talking about treatment.
No.
I didn't know that.
Oh yes.
Okay. So
Yeah. There's a whole different aspect than not only the diagnosis, the daily living, going to a restaurant.
Okay. No, you just opened a whole new can. I didn't know
I'm
that.
telling you. Yeah.
Okay.
So no, but a lot did progress. So this is.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what? I want to talk about that. So you have from a diagnostics point of view, just pure diagnostics.
Yeah.
What you're saying is that the mainstream hospitals are not equipped to do that. It's only private sector diagnosis centers.
Yeah.
Even those, the good ones, have a waiting list, and still there's a lot to be done either ways from a quality point of view.
Absolutely.
Putting that to bed. What you're saying also that there are hardly any, hospitals in general and private clinics are not equipped to handle kids with that, with autism or such. Is there any that is equipped?
Can I mention names?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay, so for example, Jalila Hospital. It's not private. It's semi-private, I think.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic hospital.
Fantastic. So it's ready for that.
It's ready. It's ready. It's equipped. It's good. We go back. Waiting lists. Good doctors are taken. But it's a struggle. It's a struggle. So like part of our curriculum, believe it or not, like what we do is we bring a dentist in or bring a doctor in because
So are these doctors like trained to handle? How does it work? Is there like a center to train doctors to handle this?
There isn't. Sadly, usually they came with the experience or they have the experience and the knowledge.
So that's an idea we should bring up.
Absolutely.
To train doctors to handle kids with such.
Doctors, nurses,
and so on. Wow. And then you're talking about.
If you want to go to that level, we need to train even people too, because I'm telling you, all my journey is personal experience. So I once, and I'm sorry, I don't want to generalize, but I need to say the nationality for you to imagine the size of the person. I think she was German from the way she's talking. A German lady, Jad was having meltdown at the mall, and he was like 9 by then. Like he was still small. And he was having a meltdown, and she comes to me at the mall. She was Mall of the Emirates. It's huge. Like you were far enough not to be affected. She comes to me and she's like, "Stop your son from whatever he's doing. He's scaring me." And I'm like, and I'm 175 by the way. I was looking at her. I was like, "He's scaring you?" And she's like, so I was like, "Wow." I was like, "I'm sorry. He's on the spectrum."
Okay.
So she's like, "It's not my problem. Don't take him out to the mall then." And I'm like, "Wow." So that's like just one example.
So there is the training side to doctors, definitely. You mentioned restaurants and malls, yeah?
Yes.
Malls.
So Emirates Airlines, I don't know if you saw, was now just, I think, a couple of weeks ago, licensed as the first autism trained, to deal with autistic kids trained in the world.
So how did they do that?
They brought specialists from outside. They brought,
So you're telling me there's no such center in here that would train? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a gap. That's a sizable gap.
There
are
big gaps. I'm telling you.
To say that 1 out of 110 kids is autistic or is in the spectrum, to say that every 20 minutes there's a diagnosis of an autism, that's in the UAE.
Yeah.
And not to have a center that would train. Are there centers that would train parents?
Yeah, there are.
So there are centers that train parents at least.
Yes.
But there are no centers that are yet designed to train public servants, inclusive of doctors, nor entertainment in the sense of F&B and malls and all of these to handle students with such cases. Wow.
Yeah.
I think there is a lot to be done there.
Yeah.
So that's from the perspective of, say, diagnosis centers, and you've highlighted that. Schools. Where are we with that today?
I can't complain to where we were 15 years ago. I can't complain.
Okay.
As I said, is it all done the right way? Yes and no. Mm-hmm. So some have the intention, have the pure heart. Some are doing it for the right reasons. Unfortunately, many others are doing it just for the money. Okay. And this is the sad part. And a lot of parents are so desperate and determined, so they're being taken advantage of. A child being in the class, coloring in the corner with his shadow next to him, doing the work for him, is not inclusion. What true inclusion is for the child to have their own IEP, individual education plan, is for the teacher to be trained or has a background to know how to deal with him, is to train all the staff how to deal with that child, to have him included. Maybe even if he comes a couple of hours a day and then go home, it's fine. But when he's there, he needs to be included. The cases we see, and from my students, because when you send to mainstream, a lot of them, we're like, no, because if this is how he's going to be included, I'd rather come back to us. If I always say, special need kids, sometimes it's the most expensive lunchbox because the child is going, they're no added value, and they're coming back. This is not inclusion, sadly.
Okay, so that's still is happening. How do we make sure that is reduced or avoided?
Constant training, constant opening maybe divisions in early intervention divisions in school, because it makes it easier for the child to then.
So if parents cannot tell better, they cannot. You probably you've been determined and like really focused and like trying to monitor progress of the kid. But then the majority, I would assume, of parents, they're not that sophisticated or not that, like focused. How can we make sure that they, that they get the best for their kids at any point in time? Is there any mechanism to assure that?
There's the good old school, which is the word of mouth.
Okay.
So what we've been seeing over the years is the trend. So, for example, let's say in our case, I know we're not. We've been functioning for 10 years. We've never marketed, never.
Okay. So is there a merit for like a center that actually helps parents get the right service for their kids with any school there is, or is that too much?
Not per se. I think it's a great idea. Not per se. It's just therapists referring therapists or people, but there's no like a consulting servicing that you're talking about. That
yes.
there's not really.
That's exactly what needs to be done. So just to help both sides,
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Like set expectations rightly to the parents, but at the same time, monitor progress at school. Whereby are they getting the right
or maybe
education
if you
service?
ask me, even financial aspect. So the
is
parent,
that the right price?
So the parent, and parents to know that, because a lot of parents, unfortunately, the deeper pocketed, the more marketing they do. So you see, for example, therapy centers, if you Google the first name, that doesn't mean they're the best and they're the most expensive. So a lot of parents end up going there, not knowing there are cheaper, better qualities. Okay. So even, not only as quality, but even as fees, for parents to know that, there's a menu.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. So no, unfortunately, there's no such a thing.
Wow. We have a second thing to work on. Two things now in my mind. Great, but I think through you and the likes of you, we would be able to better understand the gaps in the markets, and through passionate people like yourself that want to make a difference, I think we can make a difference, and I think this city allows us
100%
to make a difference. What do you think the future of all of this should look like or would look like? In an ideal world, let's imagine an ideal world. I mean, how would you imagine the future of how should it look like?
That everyone deserves education and everyone deserves to be included. If we all have our strength and we all have our weaknesses. So, small example where I did my training, one of the places. So they have 19 campuses, and one of the campuses was the vocational one. It was purely adults. When you buy a TV. There's the bag, and on it there's the sticker that says, be cautious not to put it on your head. There are people just grabbing the sticker and putting on the bag, grabbing the sticker, putting on the bag. I stood there for 5 minutes. I was going to have a panic attack. It was soothing for them.
Okay.
And it was OCD people with autism.
Yeah.
And this for me was like, wow, there's a job and a place and a time for everyone.
Okay.
So unfortunately, we still exclude our children instead of finding their strength and finding what they can thrive with. Because what we find odd, they can do much better than us.
Okay.
So this is my vision for the future, is basically stop the taboo of not talking about it. Stop the taboo of not including kids. Stop. Just look for their strength and let's work on it. So inclusion, education. My ideal world would be is having like maybe a compound or a city, like I'm gonna call it a city, to like accommodate for such kids, which do exist in the foreign world of like a nursing home, but not for seniors, but for special needs. And it's not like they're locked because they're capable. They can go out, they can come in, they can go to work, they can go to school, university, whatever, but they need certain requirements. I think this is also a very, very essential thing that down the road needs to be looked on at.
What about you?
What about you?
I know of the passing of Jad a few years ago, but you're still on. You see your purpose.
Yeah.
Your purpose continues, and that's very, very noble. And as if you are taking every kid there with a challenge as a Jad.
Yeah.
And so heart warming. Where do you get that energy? I mean, I can't imagine being in your shoes and have done what you have done all of these years, with all the ups and downs, and building a whole thing as Jad's inclusion is, and you continue.
Yeah.
Where do you get that?
So I don't think we addressed it. So in case of the audience, want to just have a small background. After 2 years of opening Modern Alternative Education, my angel went to sleep and never woke up. Islam. And I always want to clarify, it has nothing to do with autism. Because till date, I get emails and messages, oh my God, we didn't know autism's fatal. Autism's not fatal. It has nothing to do with autism. It's his heart just stopped. And it's funny enough because it was just when I built the healthy relationship with my son. So he was already going to a place where he belonged. He was happy. He was improving. I was in peace with the whole situation of, having special need kid. I was helping other families, and it just happened. The interesting part is during condolences, families were sending messages. And of course, I wasn't in a condition to see my phone or anything. So it was family members that were seeing it or handling it. And then after, they're like, oh my God, these are awful people, like awful people. How selfish are they? And I read the messages and they were like, we're really sorry for your loss. Is MAE or Modern Alternative Education going to shut down? Because it happened in August. It happened this summer. So is it going to shut down?
So they were concerned. They were afraid.
So people around, like, I still get the goosebumps. People around me were like, what selfish, awful people. The way I was seeing it, I was like, they're just amazing parents. Because if we shut down, they're going to go to square one, kids not belonging anywhere.
You are a lifeline for them.
So
you are the only hope.
So we started with 11 kids. We ended up the year with 22. We doubled. And as I tell you, we reject more than we accept. And the 22, I think maybe only 7 of them lived in the UAE.
Okay.
The others, we had, just from the first year, we had a family that relocated to Canada. We have a family that dad stayed, but mom took the child and went to UK. Then she moved back to the family. We had a family from Oman, and we had a family from Pakistan. So this is how big the gap was. It was like we united families. It wasn't only the child that we were helping. Yeah. So remembering this and then seeing the messages I got from parents, Jad passed on the 2nd of August. 2nd of September, I was greeting parents at the opening because I wanted to show them that nothing was going to change. By greeting, I was fainting, getting up, fainting. Yeah. But I did it, and I just went into... You might laugh at me, but I would like to believe that my angel... He was an angel. He was very good looking. He came on a mission. He delivered this mission. And when it was delivered, he went back to where he belongs. I would like not to disappoint him. And if God chose me, I would like to continue with his legacy. The only selfish act that I did was that his birthday is on January 31st. On that year, I changed the name from Modern Alternative Education to Jad's Inclusion, and we planted an olive tree in his memory. So why is this drive? Yes, because all of them are Jad to me. I see the impact of families and lives. I see the change we're doing. I'm still in touch with all the previous families. Like now, if we just as is right now, with no announcement, we just go in there. Hi, Miss Rana. Hi, X. Hi, Z. Hi, because the parents know me. I know them. They know the kids. So it's a community. It's not just a center. So it's and a lot of people. Thank you for your kind words. Be like, oh, what an amazing woman you are. I think they give me just as much as I give them. It's very fulfilling.
Yeah,
So it's a selfish. The way I see it, it's a selfish act. It's not an act of kindness.
Actually, if you get into many research, that one of the longest research that has been conducted, 75 years on more than 1,400 candidates for 75 years. And they were trying to gauge what contributed the most towards their quality of life towards the end of their lives. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that was not about wealth or even health or diet, or it was predominantly about the quality of relationships. Okay. And you truly understand that because this is how our brains work. Mm-hmm. And this whole system, social system that we live in, it's a blessing that God gave us, whereby if we do good to others, we feel happy.
Sure.
Because otherwise, probably a lot of people will not do good to others. So don't feel bad about that. It's not selfish. This is how we were designed to be. Okay, yeah. Helping others ignites certain hormones in us. It makes us happy, and this is why a lot of people help each other. It's something we need to encourage. Talking to all the Ranas of the world. Mm-hmm. Going to the first to Rana at the first shock. At the time where Rana was concerned. What would you tell them? How would you have done it differently now that you're where you are? I know it is probably easier said than done, because many of these 100%. Are just too hard to try and say do this or do that. But let's try. So to the Ranas of the world, this first change in their kids happening, and then the whole journey, both socially and practically when it comes to diagnostics and early intervention. What would you say to them?
If Jad, not autism itself, taught me something, is just go back to the basics. And everything, just go back to the basics. So just remember the reason you wanted to become a parent. It's not a catalog. It's not, I want smart, I want this. You want to become a parent to fulfill your parenting desire. Okay. So remember that, because, and I'm saying I'm guilty of it. You lose track. We're so programmed that there's a certain way we want our kids. There's a certain way we want our spouse. There's a certain way you get married.
Society puts a certain standard.
Exactly. Yeah. Society, upbringing, and all. So you marry someone to have a partner, not to XYZ. You have a kid to fulfill your parenting desire. So special needs or not, genius or not, good looking or not, he or she are still your babies. Enjoy them, love them. Don't let other add-ons distract you. I wish as simple as someone would have told me that. Other thing which might sound very tacky, but I go with it. And it's all, see, this is why I say go back to basics. It's in all religions. It is in all religions. Believe in faith. Believe in God, whatever God is to you, just believe in the process. Enjoy the moment while you're living it. Don't worry about the future. So as tacky as it sounds, but it's true.
Yeah, but we always miss to live the day, live the emotion.
Because if you ask me, if I knew Jad was going to pass,
I would try to enjoy him more, yeah?
Instead of fixing him. So small things like that. So just don't worry. Okay. Everything happens for a reason. You don't know what your journey, you don't know the reason, you don't know why your child, because this is a question, why me, why me, why me, why me?
And what would you say to Rana, the wife, or the Rana, the daughter, or the sister, or the Rana, the family member, what would you say to her?
I say to her, I'm blessed that I am from in this part of the world, because we have, again, strength and weaknesses. And we might not be as developed in certain ways, but I'm blessed to come from a community or society that I had the family support, I had the friends support, we have this bond and connection which is strong. So I say to her, count your blessings, and I'm grateful to every one of them, because if it wasn't for them, I don't think I could have done it. And this is also an advice for all the other people in the world, not only here, because here, as I said, we are blessed to come from such a community. Don't isolate yourself. Seek help.
Okay. I think you tend to naturally want to isolate, is it?
Automatically.
Okay,
Automatically.
yeah.
And this is what I'm telling you. And I'm telling you, I'm just a mother. Even now when I go to fancy awards or whatever, I'm like, I don't have any fancy thing to put before my name. I'm just Rana, the mother.
Okay.
So my experience is life.
Okay.
And my experience is what I went through.
Okay.
So yes, so when I say, and I'm sorry, sometimes I say it might balance 100 of years of education, or because its experience is most important. And I lived it. So isolating yourself is the easiest thing to do. If you don't have family, go for friends. If you don't have friends, go for therapy or professionals. Don't isolate yourself. So the Rana, the social Rana, is grateful for where she belongs from.
And when it comes to taking the steps, what would you say to Rana after all of the experiences you went through? What would you say to the Ranas that are now wanting to figure out, what's the situation with their kid, and then what are the steps to take?
Early intervention. Don't waste time. Don't deal with your emotions, but move fast.
Okay.
Don't delay. Don't be in denial and shove your ego or whatever social stigmas put on you.
And what could help them stay in that mindset of trying to be positive and try to
the social support.
Look at it from the perspective of, this is what I have, I need to enjoy, and I'll deal with it in a way whereby not to stress everyone, inclusive myself, and do what is possible and not beyond that. How would you?
To take care of themselves.
Okay. Not to forget themselves in the way.
Not to forget themselves in the way. And it's something very essential and important. Actually, one time I did a Mother's Day inviting all the moms to spa treatment. I tell parents, because financial is a struggle with a lot of parents of special needs. So when sometimes they sit with me, because I told you it's like more of a family, it's not like principal of a center or something. They sit and they're like, what if we take off 2 sessions of OT and put a speech and put that and put that? And I always make it a point. I was like, cancel a speech therapy and go do a massage. And you'd have to see the shock on their face. I was like, if you ask me out of experience, it's the same cost. It will benefit your child more than the 1 hour speech therapy is not going to do anything. You going to the spa,
you're going to do miracles.
You're going to give much more. So and I know it, and I'm saying it because as a parent, you're going to feel selfish. Okay. You're going to be like, no, but what if that's the breaking session that's going to happen? It's not going to be the breaking session. The breaking session is your mental health, is your well-being. It's just like, when you're on the airplane, they tell you put your mask and then put your child's mask if there's an emergency. I never understood it because I was like, of course I'm going to save my son and then save myself. No, because I've been there. Sometimes when your energy is so drained, you might even not have the time or the energy to put the mask on you. So when they said it, it's there for a reason. Save yourself first to be able to save others.
Is there any specific point you'd like to highlight at the end of this session? Is there a specific subject that you'd like to attend to?
Not really. I just wish for people not to be judgmental, to make the lives of parents of special needs, I'm not even saying special needs, easier. If you see child throwing a tantrum or meltdown or delay or whatever it is, be more understanding.
I think a lot of education, public education, has to
A
happen
lot.
for that. Yeah.
A lot.
And I think it is our duty to try and help as much as possible.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to thank you very much, Rana, for sharing a lot of things. I know it wasn't an easy journey, and I know speaking about it is not easy, but I do believe that what you have shared is definitely going to be very, very helpful to not only parents, educators, practitioners, even governmental officials, to see the gaps there is in the market and what is it that each and every one of us actually can do to help that segment of society, so that they have a better quality of life. Also, if they would like to reach out to you, I mean, what's the best way for them to reach out?
So our social media, we're all on all platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and all that. It's JADS Inclusion, one word. And our website is jadsinclusion.com. I'm also there if anyone needs anything. It's Rana Akkad, AKKAD, my last name, and happy to help in any possible way.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.